Discovery and First Contact. The Alliance exploration vessel, Harmonious Discovery, drifted silently through the void, its sleek silver hull reflecting the distant starlight as it mapped the uncharted sector. Commander Zix Val stood on the observation deck, her four compound eyes taking in the breathtaking view of nebular gases swirling in cosmic dance. As the ship's most senior Centaurian officer, she had spent 3 decades exploring the galaxy's farthest reaches. Yet the wonder of discovery never diminished. "Commander," came the voice of Science Officer Trellick, the ship's Volarian analyst. His translucent skin pulsed with blue bioluminescence, a sign of excitement among his species. Long-range sensors have detected an anomalous object at coordinates 227 to 34,189. It appears to be artificial in nature. Zix Val's antennae twitched with interest. Composition analysis. Preliminary scans indicate metallic alloys consistent with shipbuilding materials, but of unfamiliar configuration. The object is approximately 1.2 kilometers in length with a mass suggesting extensive internal compartmentalization. "A derelict vessel?" she asked, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "Most likely. Power signatures are minimal at present. The design doesn't match any known Alliance or hegemony configurations." The commander's inner eyelids flickered, a Centaurian expression of curiosity. "Set course for intercept. Standard approach protocols. Alert the first contact team." As the Harmonious Discovery altered course, Zix Val summoned her senior staff to the tactical room. The ship's holographic display projected a 3-dimensional image of their target as they drew closer. "By the 7 moons," whispered Navigation Officer Peloreth, the Arcturian pilot. "That's a human vessel." A hush fell over the assembled officers. Humans were nearly mythological in a modern galaxy, a species that had briefly explored the stars before mysteriously vanishing from interstellar affairs centuries ago. Their abandoned outposts and occasional derelict ships were rare discoveries, each one studied with reverence by Alliance archaeologists. Dr. Mira Kivash, the ship's xenohistorian and the only Proximan aboard, approached the hologram with reverence. Her species had evolved from the same genetic branch as humans, making her closest to understanding their extinct cousins. "The design suggests a military vessel," she noted, gesturing to the angular hull and what appeared to be weapon emplacements. "Late 23rd century Earth calendar, judging by the propulsion system configuration. If I'm not mistaken, this is what humans called a dreadnought, a capital warship." Commander Zix Val's exoskeleton creaked as she leaned forward. What would a human warship be doing this far from their home territories? Historical records indicate they never expanded beyond the Orion Spur. "Unknown," replied Kavash. "But finding any human artifact this intact is unprecedented. Most derelicts we've discovered were heavily damaged or stripped by scavengers." As the Harmonious Discovery approached the massive vessel, its details became clearer. The ship was a brutal monument to human engineering, all sharp angles and practical design, rather than the elegant biomimetic architecture preferred by the Alliance. Massive railgun turrets dotted its hull, along with launch tubes for what must have been missile systems. Despite centuries adrift, the hull showed remarkably little damage beyond micrometeorite impacts and cosmic radiation discoloration. "Still no response to our hails," reported Communications Officer Drenthal. "If there are automated systems aboard, they're not acknowledging us." "Power readings?" asked Zix Val. Science Officer Trellick consulted his displays. "Minimal but stable. Something aboard is still drawing power, but at perhaps 1% of what a vessel this size would normally require. It appears to be in some form of dormancy." The commander made her decision. "Prepare a boarding team. Full environmental protection and minimal equipment. Observation only. No intrusive scanning or sampling without my direct authorization. This is a scientific and historical discovery of immense significance." The boarding team assembled in the shuttle bay. Dr. Kivash, Science Officer Trellick, Security Chief Forex, and 2 technical specialists. They donned environmental suits customized for their diverse physiologies and armed themselves with standard scientific equipment, and at Forex's insistence, defensive sidearms. Historical records indicate human military vessels were heavily secured. The burly Calathan security chief rumbled, his crystalline exoskeleton glinting under the bay lights. If any automated security systems remain active, they may not distinguish between intruders and friendlies after all this time. As their shuttle approached the human vessel, they located what appeared to be an external airlock near what Kvash identified as the ship's midsection. The massive letters UES Vigilant were still visible on the hull nearby, though partially obscured by space dust. UES likely stands for United Earth Ship, Kvash explained. Vigilant must be its designation. The shuttle docked successfully, magnetic clamps engaging with the ancient but compatible airlock interface. Trellek's instruments confirmed the ship's interior was still pressurized, though the atmosphere had degraded substantially over the centuries. The boarding team cycled through the airlock, helmet lights illuminating the darkness beyond. They entered a utilitarian corridor with metal grating floors and exposed conduits along the ceiling. Functional rather than aesthetic, Kvash noted. Emergency lighting still functioned, casting everything in a dim red glow. Fascinating, whispered Trellek, his scanner sweeping the area. Internal temperature is maintained at precisely 5 degrees Celsius, cold enough to preserve electronics and materials, but requiring minimal power. They moved deeper into the ship, passing crew quarters, storage rooms, and maintenance areas. Everything was meticulously organized but abandoned, as if the crew had simply vanished during regular operations. Personal effects remained in quarters, framed images of humans and landscapes, clothing items, recreational devices. The ship was a perfect time capsule of human civilization. I'm detecting increasing power signatures ahead, Trellek announced. Something is drawing more energy as we approach what appears to be the central command section. As they reached a massive reinforced door marked Bridge, authorized to personnel only, the ship suddenly hummed to life around them. Overhead lights activated, and ventilation systems began cycling the stale air. Movement detected, barked Forex. Weapon raised. Multiple signatures converging on our position. From recessed compartments in the corridor walls, spherical objects emerged, each approximately 1 meter in diameter, with various sensors and appendages protruding from their metallic bodies. They hovered using some form of anti-gravity technology, surrounding the boarding party. Security drones, Kvash whispered. Don't move suddenly. The drones scanned the team with pulsing blue beams. A mechanical voice emanated from hidden speakers. Unidentified biological entities, DTTCTE. Ship status. Conservation Toro Tokyo active. State your authorization, or being you to realize it. Kvash stepped forward cautiously. We are representatives of the Galactic Alliance, a peaceful coalition of species. This vessel appears abandoned. We mean no harm and seek only to understand. The drones continued their scanning. No human life's identity. No VALID authorization CODES provided. Initiating security protocol EPS IL1. The drone's appendages reconfigured into what were unmistakably weapon systems. Security Chief Forex fired first, his energy weapon striking the nearest drone, which absorbed the blast without apparent damage. Return to the shuttle, he shouted, providing covering fire as the team retreated. More drones emerged from hidden compartments, and wall-mounted turrets deployed from ceiling panels. The human ship was awakening around them, its automated defense systems protecting against what it perceived as intruders. As they fled, emergency bulkheads began closing throughout the ship, nearly trapping them in several sections. They barely reached the airlock before the ship's defenses fully activated, laser systems scoring hits on their shuttle as they disengaged and raced back to the harmonious Discovery. The vessel is powering up additional systems, reported Navigation Officer Peloreth as the shuttle docked. We're detecting targeting systems locking onto us. Commander Zixval didn't hesitate. Evasive maneuvers. Move us to minimum safe observation distance. The Alliance vessel smoothly accelerated away as the ancient human warship's weapon systems came online. Massive railgun turrets tracking their movement and missile tubes opening along its hull. It's incredible, Dr. Kivash said, still breathing heavily from their narrow escape. That ship must be at least 400 years old, yet its automated systems are still functioning perfectly. The humans built to last. In the following hours, the harmonious Discovery maintained a safe distance while the senior staff debated their next move. The human vessel had reduced power consumption again, but maintained active sensor sweeps of the surrounding space. It's protecting something, Kivash insisted. The conservation protocol the security system mentioned that suggests the ship is preserving something of value. Or it's simply a defensive measure against salvagers, countered Security Chief Forex. Human military vessels were known to self-protect even when abandoned. Commander Zixval studied the sensor data thoughtfully. The ship could have destroyed us, but didn't. It issued warnings and used non-lethal measures to expel us. That suggests sophisticated programming beyond simple defensive protocols. Commander, interrupted Communications Officer Drenfall. I've been analyzing the transmissions from the human vessel. They're using an ancient encryption method, but I believe I've partially decoded it. The ship appears to be broadcasting a repeating message on multiple frequencies. What does it say? Asked Zixval. It's fragmented, but I've isolated the phrase Guardian Protocol active repeated throughout. There are also data packets that might be status reports or identification codes. Dr. Kivash's eyes widened. Guardian Protocol. That could be significant. In my studies of human history, there were rumors of last resort contingency plans implemented during the terminal conflict that led to humanity's disappearance from galactic affairs. Project Guardian was supposedly a desperate measure to ensure human survival, even if Earth itself was lost. Commander Zixval's antennae stood rigid with sudden understanding. You believe this ship might be carrying human survivors. After all this time. Not necessarily living humans, Kivash clarified, but perhaps something equally precious, their legacy, their knowledge, or even their genetic material. The ship's behavior makes sense if it's programmed to protect something of existential importance to human civilization. Science Officer Trellick's skin pulsed with thoughtful patterns. If we approach the vessel with this understanding, perhaps we can communicate with its systems more effectively. Human AIs were sophisticated. If one has been operating all this time, it might be capable of recognizing peaceful intent if properly conveyed. Commander Zixval considered the options. Work with Dr. Kivash to develop a communication protocol based on historical human first contact procedures. If this ship is indeed a guardian of humanity's legacy, the Alliance has a duty to understand, and if appropriate, assist its mission. As the officers dispersed to their tasks, Zixval remained on the observation deck, watching the ancient human warship drifting against the backdrop of stars. Despite centuries of isolation, it remained vigilant, its systems still protecting whatever precious cargo it carried. The commander felt a profound respect for the vanished species that had built such enduring guardians. "What secrets do you guard, Vigilant?" she whispered. "And what might they mean for the galaxy?" Secrets and legacy. Dr. Mira Kivash hunched over the communications console, her fingers dancing across the interface as she implemented another algorithm modification. For 3 standard days, she had worked with Communications Officer Drenfall to develop a protocol that might penetrate the human vessel's defensive posture. This should establish compatibility with their encryption systems, she explained to the assembled senior staff. "I've incorporated recognition codes from every known human diplomatic and military database in Alliance archives. If the ship's AI is programmed to recognize authorized communication patterns, one of these might work." Commander Zixfel nodded approvingly. And if we establish communication, then we present ourselves honestly, Kivash replied. From what we know of human psychology, they responded well to direct truth, especially in crisis situations. If this ship is indeed carrying something vital to human survival, its AI will be programmed to evaluate potential allies. The transmission was initiated, a complex sequence of data packets followed by a simple message in ancient human English. To UE is vigilant. We recognize your Guardian protocol and offer assistance to your mission. We come as friends of humanity. Minutes passed in tense silence. Then the communications array chimed. We're receiving a response. Drenfall announced, surprise evident in his voice. Text only, in human English. The message appeared on the main display. Identify species, composition, and intentions. Guardian protocol requires verification of non-hostile status. Kivash couldn't suppress her excitement. It's actually communicating. The AI must have determined we're worth evaluating. They sent a detailed response explaining the Alliance's multi-species composition, its peaceful exploration mandate, and their interest in understanding the Vigilance mission. They included scientific and historical data that demonstrated their knowledge of and respect for human civilization. The reply came faster this time. Apigorogich authorized for single issue title. Maximum 3 representatives. Airlock 7C YLB ACCSSI Bill. Deviation from designated PA YL or ULT in termination. It's inviting us aboard, said Commander Zixfile, mandibles clicking in surprise. Security Chief Vorex rumbled with concern. It's also threatening to kill us if we step out of line. That's just human diplomatic style, Kivash assured him with a smile. Direct and unambiguous. The fact that it's allowing access at all is remarkable progress. The commander quickly selected the boarding party. Dr. Kivash for her expertise in human history, Science Officer Trellick for his analytical capabilities, and herself as the mission commander. Despite Security Chief Forex's vehement objections, they would go unarmed as a show of trust. Their shuttle approached the designated airlock, which illuminated as they neared, interior systems clearly activated to receive them. As they docked and cycled through, they found the corridor beyond now fully illuminated with functional environmental systems. The atmosphere has been refreshed, noted Trellick, checking his instruments. Temperature raised to 20 degrees Celsius, standard human comfort level. The ship is accommodating us. A mechanical voice echoed through the corridor. Follow ILUNINATVPA to Central Command. Deviation will NOTB TOLE or ATED. Floor lighting activated, creating a clear path through the massive vessel. As they walked, systems activated around them. Displays flickering to life, maintenance drones moving purposefully through side corridors, environmental systems humming efficiently. It's remarkable, whispered Commander Zixfall. After centuries of dormancy, everything still functions perfectly. Humans built redundancy upon redundancy into their military systems, explained Kivash. This ship was designed to operate for extended periods without maintenance, possibly even decades. The fact that it's lasted centuries speaks to engineering far beyond what historical records suggested they possessed. The illuminated path led them to a massive reinforced door that slid open silently as they approached. Beyond was a cavernous command center, the bridge of the human warship. Holographic displays activated as they entered, showing ship systems, external sensor data, and what appeared to be mission parameters in human text. At the center of the bridge, a humanoid figure flickered into existence, a holographic representation of a human male in a formal military uniform, standing at attention with hands clasped behind his back. Welcome aboard the United Earth ship Vigilant, the figure stated, its voice no longer mechanical but remarkably lifelike. I am Atlas, Advanced Tactical Logistics and Security System. I serve as this vessel's artificial intelligence and caretaker. You claim to come as friends of humanity. This requires verification. Kivash stepped forward, bowing slightly in what she knew was a human gesture of respect. We are representatives of the Galactic Alliance, a peaceful coalition formed long after humanity's absence from galactic affairs. We seek to understand your mission and, if appropriate, offer assistance. The hologram studied them with unnervingly lifelike eyes. Biometric scans indicate 3 distinct non-human species. Historical records contain no reference to a galactic alliance. Elaborate on humanity's absence, as you phrase it. Kvash exchanged glances with Commander Zixval, who nodded for her to continue. Atlas, according to our historical records, human civilization suffered a catastrophic event approximately 387 standard years ago. All human colonies and outposts went silent simultaneously. Subsequent investigation of Earth found evidence of massive devastation consistent with advanced weapons deployment. We believe humanity to be extinct, with only artifacts and ruins remaining. The hologram's expression didn't change, but the lighting throughout the bridge dimmed momentarily. Your timeline aligns with my last received transmissions from Earth Command. The terminal conflict had escalated beyond containment. The Vigilant was deployed as part of Operation Seed Vault, with explicit orders to maintain distance from Earth and all major colonies. Operation Seed Vault prompted Zixval gently. Atlas gestured, and the holographic displays changed to show detailed schematics of the ship's cargo holds. The Vigilant carries cryopreserved genetic samples from Earth's biosphere, humans, animals, plants, and microorganisms. Over 30,000 human genetic lineages, specifically selected for diversity and resilience. Embryos, gametes, and complete DNA sequences. The accumulated biological heritage of Earth, preserved against extinction. The alien visitors stood in stunned silence. The Vigilant wasn't just a derelict warship. It was an ark carrying the biological legacy of an entire planet. In addition, Atlas continued, the ship's databases contain the sum of human knowledge as it existed at launch, scientific, cultural, historical, and technological. The mission parameters were clear: survive, preserve, and when safe, find a suitable world to reestablish human civilization. Science Officer Trellick's skin pulsed with intense blue patterns. You've been searching for 387 years. Negative, replied Atlas. Primary mission parameters included a dormancy period of no less than 300 years to ensure the terminal conflict had fully resolved. Secondary parameters required location of a habitable world beyond known human space to minimize risk of contamination by whatever weapons ended the conflict. For the past 87 years, I have been conducting methodical surveys of potentially suitable systems while maintaining minimal signature to avoid detection. Until we found you, said Commander Zixval. Correct. Your vessel's approach triggered defensive protocols. Your subsequent communication attempts suggested intelligence and non-hostile intent worthy of evaluation. Dr. Kivash's mind raced with the implications. Atlas, the Alliance has catalogued thousands of habitable worlds. We could help you fulfill your mission. The hologram's expression remained neutral, but its next words carried weight. Your offer requires evaluation. The mission exists to preserve humanity independently, not to place its future under foreign influence, however benevolent. I possess insufficient data to determine if your alliance represents an appropriate steward for humanity's legacy. Commander Zixval stepped forward. We don't seek to become stewards, Atlas. The alliance values diversity and self-determination for all sentient species. We would offer assistance in finding a suitable world and providing protection during humanity's reestablishment. But the new human civilization would develop according to its own path. An admirable sentiment, Atlas replied, but one that requires verification beyond mere words. For hours, they engaged in a complex diplomatic exchange. Atlas questioned them about alliance governance, history, scientific capabilities, and ethical frameworks. The AI was methodical, probing for inconsistencies or signs of deception with a thoroughness that impressed even Commander Zixval, a veteran diplomat. Finally, Atlas seemed to reach a decision. I propose a compromise. The Alliance will provide data on potential settlement worlds meeting specific criteria. I will evaluate these independently. If a suitable candidate is identified, the Alliance may establish a research outpost in the same system to observe and, if necessary, provide indirect assistance. Direct interference with human development will not be permitted. And if humanity faces extinction-level threats during its vulnerable early development, asked Zixval, minimum necessary intervention would be authorized, conceded Atlas. But governance must remain with humans. The terms were acceptable, and a preliminary agreement was established. Atlas permitted limited access to non-sensitive areas of the ship, allowing Alliance scientists to study human technology while providing information about potential settlement worlds. 3 months later, the UES Vigilant departed for a remote system on the galaxy's outer rim, accompanied by an Alliance science vessel at a respectful distance. The selected world, designated Aurora, offered an Earth-like environment with no indigenous sentient life, a blank slate for humanity's rebirth. From orbit, Alliance observers watched as the Vigilant deployed automated systems to the planet's surface, habitat constructors, agricultural drones, and environmental monitoring networks. When basic infrastructure was established, the first human embryos were cultivated in artificial wombs under Atlas's careful supervision. 5 years after discovery, the first new humans took their first breaths on Aurora, children of Earth born light years from their ancestral home, surrounded by technologies they would need years to understand. Atlas had created educational systems to raise them with knowledge of their heritage, while allowing them to develop their own culture. Commander Zixval, now promoted to Admiral, occasionally visited the Alliance observation post in Aurora's orbit. From the station's viewing deck, she watched the growing settlement below, a community that now numbered over 1,000 humans, with new generations being steadily introduced as resources and infrastructure permitted. "They're remarkable," noted Dr. Kivash, who had chosen to remain permanently assigned to the Aurora research team. Already they're making modifications to the systems Atlas provided, improvements, adaptations. Their capacity for innovation is just as the historical records described. "Do they resent our presence?" asked Zixval. Kivash shook her head. "Atlas has been forthright about our role. They know we're observers, not rulers. Some of the younger ones have even expressed interest in eventual diplomatic relations with the Alliance, though Atlas insists that won't be permitted until they've developed their own independent governance and technologies." On the planet below, children born of an extinct civilization played beneath alien skies, unaware of how close their species had come to oblivion. The UES Vigilant remained in orbit, its mission evolved but continuing, no longer just preserving humanity's past, but now protecting its future. Admiral Zixval watched a group of human children constructing what appeared to be a crude model of a starship. "They still look to the stars," she observed. "Of course," replied Kivash with a smile. "It's in their nature. Atlas believes they'll develop their own interstellar capabilities within 3 generations, faster if they continue their current rate of innovation. And when they rejoin the galactic community, then the Alliance will have to adapt to them, not the other way around." Kivash's expression grew thoughtful. If their ancestors could build a ship that functioned perfectly for nearly 4 centuries, imagine what they might accomplish now, with a fresh start and new perspectives. As night fell on Aurora, the settlement's lights formed a growing constellation on the planet's surface, a testament to humanity's endurance and the dedication of an artificial guardian that had faithfully executed its mission across the centuries. In the darkness above, the battle-scarred hull of the UES Vigilant caught the light of the rising moon, no longer a derelict, but a bridge between humanity's past and its renewed future.